Welcome here to the Air Investigator, ladies and gentlemen. And we're looking here at the accident, and the reference for this accident is number 121. And this time I'm going to have a look, or a closer look at least, at a Sling 4, which had a fatal crash when it went into the water. Before we carry on, I just want to make sure that you still keep in mind the fact that seems, remember that we now have new legislation in terms of dangerous goods, and all of a sudden, yeah, they talk about the CBTA, or the competency-based training there, and the dangerous groups are not as we've been used to category 10, but in fact now it is group Charlie. I had nothing to do with it. This is all ICAO stuff, so nonetheless, this is where you can get the new information about this. Well, on here I've got the Sling 4, and all that I can say about this is that this is a beaut. That's such a nice looking, sleek little aircraft, fun, modern, and all the stuff. I just simply, when I look at the prop, I say, my goodness, look at that technology. It's ever so crazy. When I look at the accident history, we've got this lake in front of us, or it's called the Bass Lake, and it's there near Johannesburg in South Africa. This has been a quarry before, and since then it's had water in it. Well, here you can see there is quite a bit of activity on this side of the lake, and this is where people really enjoy their water sports, doing whatever they do. There's a few people that live there. This is just the weekend sport. So what happened in this case is that the particular aircraft was routing from this side. Now, if it was slightly from this side or that side, I cannot 100% deduct that from the accident report, but it is clear that this was, first of all, to give whoever is here a nice shoot up or a fly past, and then the second one was to do very low flying over the water. I'm talking about very low, I'm talking about a foot or two above the water, so that you can see that the water's got its own ground effect or water effect, if you wish. It's quite amazing. But there's one little problem here. Remember that here we can enter, or the pilot could enter without a problem, but on the other side you can see that there is quite a high cliff face here. Now, I made some heights here, 473 feet here, going through, and here all of a sudden, 480. So all of a sudden we look about at a 100-foot face there, which is quite a bit. In fact, it would, in the real, well, from the water level, it would definitely just be a little bit more that you've got. The accident sequence, as I've said, the pilot just came in from the side. He descended to the water level here. Unfortunately, then he touched the water once. There was a second touch. The aircraft then climbed very steep up, stalled, and crashed into the water. And now, I will discuss that a little bit further, but first of all that I want to say is that it is such a pity to see that beautiful aircraft in a condition like this. Here to the right-hand side, why I've got this picture here is to show us the overshoot wall and the height of that cliff on the other side. Right, so I say it was an intended low-level flight over water inside the confines of a lake, and I really do mean it's in the confines of the lake. This whole area here is considered a confined area. In other words, you're dropping below the natural ground surface, but you've got to get out of it, unfortunately. Now, what happens here is that the pilot intended to do the low-level fly past to impress the passenger. Well, you could see, was it only the passenger? No, not really. I think it was to impress everybody on the side as well. But with a passenger on board, I mean, that would just be absolutely fantastic. No, I don't think this was the first time the pilot did that. I really do not think so. Unfortunately, during this fly past, touched the water, and I will just go through why I didn't touch the water again. And that was the end of the aircraft pitched up. So here I've got the aircraft contacted the water at a high speed, and I said twice, and I'll talk about that. Overreaction during the contact sequence, excessive steep attitude after the second contact. The reason that the pilot had to climb out that steep afterwards is because all of a sudden there was this side of the lake. You can call it now a mountainside, right in front of him. He had to outclimb that. I think that must have been an exceptional, daunting task, and he was very, very close to it. So it's not something that you can anticipate. Earlier, during the water touching sequence, you already lost quite a bit of distance before he could actually climb out on the other side. The aircraft stalled with full power, leading to a harsh tip stall. I just put that there. I think one must remember that if you have a full power stall, you're re-energizing the inboard section, outboard section is not re-energized, and although the wing has got wash out, in other words, less angle of attack at the tips, it will stall from the root to the tip, but in this case, if you've got that steep of an angle to climb, the tip will then stall before the root. Nevertheless, vertical impact with the water on the way down, and here you can see what a devastation it was for when the aircraft came down. Just absolutely incredible forces. The double water strike is not special or strange phenomenon, and you will see with the video that I've got a little bit later exactly that's the same thing. The first water impact is normal, the saying, and remember that as the wheels of the aircraft touches into the water, the aircraft, it's not like the people skiing on top of the water. This was too much. And that puts a pitch over on the aircraft. There's a phenomenal amount of drag. The speed reduces, the lift reduces, and the pilot is not in time to correct immediately. So the aircraft will do that hop out and hit a second time. And after the second time, it will then be possible. By then, the pilot is with it, within the reaction time. The recovery is possible if the prop is still intact. In this case, it seemed to have been intact. And now comes the crux of the matter with the solid granite-like wall ahead of him. I mean, there was no way out there. That was in the corner. If you have full power, hanging on the prop is possible, but not entirely. Because it's not like you're going to hang there and now you can go into the hover. The aircraft is simply not strong enough. But if you get the real aerobatic aircraft with super engines, they actually can pretty much come to, let's call it hanging on the prop, or let's say aircraft hovering with its tail just about vertically down. You can't discover this, how to do that during a stunt. It's an extremely difficult maneuver. And now under such pressure to discover it, it ain't going to work. Say the low speed with full power will be with full flap. Whoa, I just whipped in something here to say. Remember that if you have an approach, you've got full flap, and you want to go around, you must get the nose level, you whip in full power, the aircraft will fly far below the normal stalling speed. It will. But then you must fly level and not climb away, and no pushing and pulling and rocking the boat. Otherwise, you're going to induce advanced stalling, or let's call it a G stall or a difference in G. Not all fixed wing designs favor this result. I need you to understand that if you go and look at the accident on the Cirrus, you'll find that the Cirrus wing design, being more for high speed, the outboard section, does not like this full power, full flap. It actually stipulates in the handling notes that full power fine for the go around, but it must be then lifted from full flap to normal takeoff flap. Let's have a look at a video that was taken. Remember one thing, to get into trouble is within the spec of any person. To get out of trouble shows maybe luck, but in this case, I know the pilot, in fact, and he's pretty good. He kept his mind focused. He had a strong enough machine, and he could fly out of that. It is not something that you would like to try at home. So watch this one, and then we will be back.
Mindenki hol, mindenki? Így van, mindenki hol, mindenki. De a vezérkező nem van földig. Hát akkor nézzük, beindulok a függölő. Kedves nézőink, itt a Dunaparton 2016-ban olyat láthatunk, amelyet eddig még soha nem a repülés történetében. Ferenc Zoltán és két dél-afrikai pilótatársa formációban, egyszerre tehát 3 repülőgép halad át a láncszín alatt. Ebben a pillanatban közelednek, megcsülgették a 3 sportgép, tartják a magasságot, és ebben a pillanatban megcsinálták a
Right, now that we're back from seeing the video, I think you have got the full idea of what's happening. In this case, it was there to do a world record and everything, and yet, very, very highly skilled pilot still. He got away with it, yes, very strong engine, and he didn't have a granite wall in front of him after he got out of the water. But anyway, I'm very glad that there was a recovery. Now, this was a planned stunt. I doubt if you're a stunt pilot, because if you're a stunt pilot, well, then you would have been treasured. So, let's go on. We all know about depth perception over the water, but let's listen to the reasoning. When depth perception is not possible in the focus area of the eye, peripheral vision badly needs cues. In other words, inputs to inform the brain of the height above the surface. Well, remember our focus cone of acuity is only 2 degrees. So you can stare at anything in front of you and you'll see that that part is in, but everything else here is in the periphery. When we repeatedly do that kind of flying, we get, look, I don't want to say that we become blasé about that and we want to do that. But it's just that little bit more relaxed, been there, done that kind of thing. And the possibility to get slightly distracted is much higher than what you do the first time. The first time you're going to pay so much attention, nothing else is going to take your mind away. But then any distraction, I say there, would probably leave the pilot blind for a moment if he's not looking and focusing where he would. And a water impact in such a case, well, there's nothing to prevent it because you cannot see it. You cannot see it coming, so it's going to be the end. And then I say a willfully flying super low over water is outside our design limitations. Now, there's a few of us that think that we are smarter designed than others. I'm terribly sorry to break that bubble, but, you know, when it comes to design and how these things work, it's a long time figured out. You're not better, you're not smarter than that. In fact, we've had so many accidents, so if you're knowing and willing, you've had the input and you do that. That makes you, with all the knowledge and still going for that, pretty stupid. All right, I'm not going to retract that. I'm going to leave it at that and just say at the end there, stupid has consequences.